Alright, okay, so hello dears. Ayan. So welcome now to the last, hopefully the last na yun. The continuation na lang, okay? Alright, huwag mong salita ng panapos. Alright, but anyway, the continuation na yun on the parasites that we can recover from fecal smears, alright? The lecture on that. And we're going to discuss now the last group of your helminths that we can retrieve from your fecal smears, and that is your cestodes or your tapeworms. Now, before we continue with the different species of cestodes, we go first with their general characteristics so that you already have an idea. All right, so first is, of course, the adult is flat or ribbon-like, hence the name tapeworm. So it looks like a tape, okay? All right, they are now segmented, okay? So they have segments. So later in the picture, you can see. The rest of your, compared to your nematodes and trematodes that don't have segments, okay? So if segmented na gani siya, then that's a tapeworm or a cestode. And their appearance is not flat and leaf-like, okay? So basta they have segments. Now, they are monoecious or hermaphroditic, meaning all of them, one worm already has both the male and female reproductive organs. Yes, well-developed reproductive organs, the testes, the ovary, and uterus. So they reproduce by themselves. So sila rang usa. Okay, they don't need another worm. Okay, because they already have the female reproductive organs within them. So same with your trematodes din naman. Okay, except lang for schistosomes. Okay, pabibo. All right, cestode body, the body of the cestode or the tapeworm consists of first the scolex or yung head, which is the attachment organ. So it's the organ that attaches to your intestines. Okay, so scolex. Now the next part is the neck. Okay, which is the period of or the region of growth. Okay, so dra mag-start ang segments. So from the neck, the segments then elongate. Okay, so it's the point of proliferation for your segments. And the segments are, each segment is known as a proglottid, okay, or proglottids. And a chain of segments is known as a strobila. Okay, all right. And the farther from the neck the segment is, the more mature it becomes. Okay, and it can be stained with your India ink. Nako, press the buzzer. India ink. Okay, all right. So here's an example of a tapeworm. These are the different parts. So the whole of this is a scolex, okay? This is the neck, all right? Neck, the region of growth, point of proliferation. So from the neck, the different segments, each of this is known as a proglottid. So the nearer to the neck, it's immature. And as you go farther, it becomes mature. And the last proglottids, the last set of strobila or proglottids are gravid. So when you say gravid, gravid, it already contains the embryo, alright? Or buntis. Like, muna ko pagsabot sa gravid, buntis, na siya'y sulod na, it contains already the embryo, gravid. And the last parts of your tapeworm, the last segments, they can detach, meaning pwede siyang matangtang, alright? And that is the term apolysis, okay? Apolysis. The detachment of the tapeworm na mga segments. Okay? Usually the farther end. Okay? So again, immature, mature, and then the gravid. Pinaka-last na gyud na set of proglottids are your gravid proglottids. Meaning, they already contain the embryo, the developing tapeworm. Alright? Okay, now for the scolex, it has a sucker. Okay? For the sucker, it's known as an acetabulum. Acetabula, bula if plural. Okay, plural. So this is the suckers, which again facilitate in the attachment, okay? And then we can also have a rostellum, which is a hook, okay? Parang it's a structure that the tapeworm can use for attachment pa rin. That's rostellum. Okay, but again, overall, this is all of this is known as your scolex. Okay. All right. So general characteristic of your tapeworms. Okay. And this is an example of a real tapeworm. Ayan. So as you can see, segmented. You can really see the segments. Like you can see the lines that separate the segments and the proglottids. Okay? All right, ayan. So that's for the general characteristics. Now we start first with the first species, of course, the Taenia species, starting with the first one, which is Taenia saginata. Common name is your beef tapeworm. The intermediate host are your cattle, cows, and camels. So by the name itself, from beef, pwede pod camels. Now, infective stage is the Cysticercosis bovis. By the name itself, Cysticercosis is the larva. Bovis, meaning referring to beef. Okay. So, larva of the tapeworm in the beef, Cysticercosis bovis. The mode of ingestion is, mode of transmission, ingestion of raw or undercooked beef. Ayan, so yung mga mahilig dyan ng mga steak, Yes, mga rich kids dyan. Yes, mga raw, medium rare, mga ganun. Diyos ko. Okay. So, you know, I think after our lecture, after you survive para, guys, generally, like both like and lab, basin, after surviving, you will be more, choosy when it comes to your food. Which is good naman, no? You have to be safe yun. Because you already know the different parasites that you can get from eating undercooked beef, pork, fish. Ayan, guys, marami. From beef to fish, may mga parasites kayo na pwedeng makuha. Okay? Alright. So, lahat. Even mga vegetables, you can also get parasites there. Okay, all right, ayan. Anyway, okay, so again, ingestion of raw or undercooked beef. Your proglotid, again, the segment, it contains 15 to 20 lateral branches and is described as dichotomous or resembling like a tree. So this is the appearance, ayan. So this is the inside of the proglotid of the Taenia saginata, okay? And this black one, guys, is the India ink. So injectan mo na siya India ink. So you inject India ink, okay, inside the proglotid so that you can see the different lateral branches. Okay, that's part of the structure of the proglotid. Okay? All right, so imo na siya i-count. Again, 15 to 20. So it's really, really many. Okay? And it's described as tree-like. Yes, it looks like a tree. Okay? Or dichotomous. Okay. The eggs, spherical, radially striated, embryonated with oncosphere. Again, as mentioned in our virtual microscope activity, it's indistinguishable with Taenia solium. Alright, that is why. So this is the egg, theoretically, of your Taenia. And, yes, this is the real appearance. That's why if you see this under the microscope, you report it as Taenia SPP egg scene. Because of the reason that you cannot speciate or differentiate the two species of Taenia only by looking at the egg. Alright, so how do we differentiate? We usually look at the proglotids or the adults. Okay? Alright, that's for Taenia saginata. Now, the disease that it causes is known as intestinal taeniasis. Intestinal taeniasis. Taeniasis or taeniasis? Okay. Intestinal taeniasis. That's for Taenia saginata, your beef tapeworm. Its life cycle is not that complicated compared to Taenia solium. So, ato na siya i-discuss. Okay. Which is the next one. Your Taenia solium, by the name itself, is your pork tapeworm. So, it's a tapeworm that you can get from pigs. Okay. Intermediate host is your pigs if it can cause intestinal taeniasis, or kita, man, if Cysticercosis. So, later, we'll discuss that. Okay. For infective stage, again, it could be Cysticercosis cellulosae, which is the larva. Okay. Parehas lang siya sa Taenia saginata. Okay. Na Cysticercosis bovis sa saginata. For infective stage sa solium, Cysticercosis cellulosae. Or your embryonated eggs kung Cysticercosis. Alright, sige. Kalma lang. We'll discuss that. Okay. Mode of transmission, ingestion of measly pork, meaning pork that contains the larva, and or embryonated eggs. So this is measly pork. Ano yung mga white here? These are the larva. This is the cysticercoid. Ang larva manggod sa Taenia is like, it's a cyst, okay? Then it contains already na mga developing tapeworm. Ganyan yung appearance niya. Alright? So this one here, mga white, these are the cysticercoid. Alright? So if you eat this, you can get intestinal taeniasis. But if you ingest embryonated eggs, you can get cysticercosis. Alright, sige. We'll differentiate the two. Don't worry. Proglotids niya, as you can see, it's much lesser. Okay? 70 to 13 lateral branches, and it's described as dendritic or finger-like. Ayan. So that's the appearance. Does it look like a finger? Yeah. Okay. Alright. So dendritic or finger-like. Okay. Ayan. So dendritic or finger-like. And lastly, eggs, still the same appearance as your Taenia saginata. Again, cannot differentiate. Now, before we continue, again, just some mnemonics that I can share. For proglotids, as you can see, sino yung mas marami? Saginata. So how do I remember? Saginata, solium. So, count the letters. Sino yung mas marami? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 letters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 letters. So, kung the name that contains the most number of letters, siya rin yung may pinakamaraming lateral branches. Okay? Alright. Wrong spelling. More lateral branches. Okay? Saginata. Siya yung maraming letters. So, ang solium, fewer. Aside from that, how do I remember if it's dendritic or dichotomous? For saginata, how I remember is maraming vowels. Saginata, okay? Saginata. So, dichotomous, ayan. Dichotomous, mos, so O, vowel pa rin, or tree. So, tree-like, vowel pa rin, tree-like. Ayan. So, kung sino yung mas maraming vowels, siya yung dichotomous or tree-like. So, saginata, dichotomous, tree-like. Okay? Because before, when I was a third-year student, I often get confused kung sino yung finger-like, sino yung tree-like. Finger-clicking good, charot. So, ang solium, siya ang dendritic finger-like. Okay? Alright. Dichotomous, or your tree-like saginata. So, ang mga vowels, mag-join sila together. Okay? Whereas your dendritic, okay, dendritic finger-like sa solium. Okay? Alright. And don't forget what stain can be used to inject the proglottid of your Taenia species to help in the identification because we use proglottids to identify them, the species. Unsa na stain? India ink. Nako, press the buzzer. India ink. Okay, all right. Now we go now to the different life cycles. Ayan, sige. Mark, kaya today. Okay, sige. All right, ayan. Now we go first with your Taenia saginata. Your Taenia saginata is very, very simple. Okay? And also your Taenia solium. Your Taenia saginata, ano na lang, para mas clear. Your Taenia saginata only causes one type of disease, and that is intestinal taeniasis. Okay. But for T solium, it can cause either taenia, intestinal taeniasis, or Cysticercosis. Alright. Okay. Now, what we're going to look at here are the life cycle for taeniasis, intestinal taeniasis. So again, ang intestinal taeniasis can occur both in Taenia saginata and Taenia solium. Okay, so how does it go? So your humans will eat, okay, ingest undercooked beef or pork that contains your Cysticercosis larva. So it's in the muscle, it's in the meat of your pork and beef, okay? So what happens, pag eat sa patient, okay, ma-digest ang meat, ma-release ang cysticercoid larva. So it's already a larva, so the larva then develops into adults. Okay, very easy. And then the adults, of course, they copulate, they release now the eggs, sorry. They now release the eggs. So release the eggs again, taenia, and the cycle goes on. So that's the taeniasis na life cycle. Very simple. So what the humans or what the hosts eat are your cysticercoid larva, the larva of the tapeworm. Again, seen siya in both Taenia solium and Taenia saginata. Ang intestinal taeniasis. If, again, intestinal taeniasis, what is your infective stage to humans? Your cysticercoid larva. Cysticercosis bovis para sa Taenia saginata, beef. Cysticercosis cellulosae for pork. Okay? Gets? I hope na gets lang. So again, nikaon naman kag larva, you ate the larva already. So therefore, larva, what's the next stage? Adult. So from the larva, okay, digested, the larva then hatches, or the egg hatches, okay? All right. And it now develops into the adults. And then the adults produce the eggs release in the feces, and then the cycle goes on. Okay? That's for taeniasis. Now, the next disease is Cysticercosis, which we can only see in Taenia solium. Taenia saginata does not exhibit or does not cause Cysticercosis, only your Taenia solium. All right. Now, what happens in Cysticercosis? Instead of larva ang makain sa humans, what they eat is the egg of Taenia, embryonated egg of Taenia solium. So what happens is egg man ang nakain, maybe from feces, from soil, whatever. So what happens, the Taenia solium egg, it now develops into a cysticercoid larva inside the humans. That's why it can be an intermediate host. Now, the cysticercoid larva, once the egg of Taenia solium is inside the patient, inside the host, it now goes into cysticercoid larva. Now, the cysticercoid larva will develop in different parts of your body. And this cysticercoid larva is a dead end parasite, okay? Meaning, dili na siya move further. Di na siya move further in the life cycle. This will not develop into an adult anymore. It will just stay as a cysticercoid larva. That's why the name of the disease is Cysticercosis. Okay? And very, very important. Why? Because this is quite deadly then, and because the most common site in the body where your cysticercoid larva of the Taenia solium can develop is in the brain. That's why we have what we call Cysticercosis. Okay? Very, very important. Very, very quite dangerous then. Alright? So again, if the cysticercoid larva of your tapeworm of Taenia solium will develop in the brain, okay, it causes Cysticercosis. But it can also develop in different parts of the body. Pwede sa eyes, pwede sa subcutaneous tissues. Alright? So that can only be seen in Taenia solium. You cannot see that in Taenia saginata. Okay, guys? I hope na-gets lang. Again, Taenia saginata, Taenia solium, both of them can cause intestinal taniasis. Okay, so sa intestines. So what happens sa intestinal taniasis? The hosts ingest, unsa man ang na-ingest? Ang larva sa Taenia species. Alright? So once na-ingest niya ang larva, which is found in the meat, okay, in the pork or beef na meat, okay, so ma-release, okay, mo-hatch ang imuhang larva, may mo siyang adult na tapeworm, produce og eggs, the eggs are released in the feces of humans, and the cycle goes on. Okay, very simple. That's for taniasis. Again, seen in both Taenia saginata and Taenia solium. But we also have Cysticercosis. Asa ra siya makita? Where can we see it? Only in Taenia solium. So in this case, if Cysticercosis, the patient or the humans, the hosts, ingest this time embryonated eggs. Okay? And the embryonated eggs, once ingested by humans or by the host, it will now develop into the cysticercoid larva. And once the cysticercoid larva is inside the humans or inside the host, it's a dead-end parasite. It will not develop further. It will not become an adult. It will just stay as a cysticercoid larva. And so what's the significance? What's the importance? It grows into different parts of the body. And a very, very common, the most common site for it to grow is our brain. That's why it can cause Cysticercosis. But it can also live in the eyes and the subcutaneous tissues. Alright? I hope na-gets lang. Okay? I hope na-gets lang, John. Alright? The difference. Okay? So it's very, ang mas harmful is Taenia solium. Okay? Compared sa Taenia saginata. Oh, but still the same, there are still tapeworms. Okay? So, bottom line, conclusion, cook your meat properly. Okay? Alright. Ayaw na mo pa social na mga rare, extra rare, medium rare, mga ganun. Okay? Alright. But if that's your preference, go lang. Okay? But as medtechs, no, you are already aware of what you can see or what you can get from that. Okay? Alright. So that's for the Taenia species. Very, very, quite complicated na life cycle, especially for Taenia solium. Alright? But I hope na gets lang. Okay? Whew. Alright. Okay. Ayan. That's for the Taenia species. Now we go now to the next, your Hymenolapis nana. Another type of tapeworm, also known as your dwarf tapeworm. Okay? Now your intermediate host, again, it could be that it has two life cycles. It could be a direct life cycle where it does not need an intermediate host, or an indirect life cycle that needs an intermediate host. Alright? So, intermediate host, if direct life cycle, none, or flea or beetle. Ayan, flea or beetle. Reservoir host, mice and rats. Infective stage is embryonated egg if direct, meaning it does not need a host, and cysticercoid larva if indirect. Mode of transmission is ingestion of the embryonated egg or ingestion of the host, intermediate host that contains the larva. Okay? And the eggs oncosphere with two polar thickenings from which arise 4 to 8 polar filaments. Ayan. So, kanisha guys, the kaning purple, same with Taenia na egg, I forgot to discuss. That is now known as the oncosphere. Okay? Alright. Now, for Hymenolapis nana, na siya bipolar, this one, bipolar thickenings, and from there, na yung mga lines na ni gawas, and that is your polar filaments. Okay? Alright. Ayan. 4 to 8 polar filaments. So, that's the appearance. As you can see, here, guys, if you look at it, there are lines here. And as you can see, the cytoplasm is quite dirty, no? So, marami siya mga lines. That's H. nana na egg. Alright. Okay. Again, now we go now to the life cycle so that you can get the direct and indirect. Now, for the life cycle of H. nana, your H. nana eggs, once they are released, they are embryonated, meaning it already contains the embryo. Now, it can go into two ways. First is derecho, the direct life cycle. It does not need a host, an intermediate host. So from the feces, the patient ingests the eggs, embryonated eggs, through dirty hands or food, all right? And that's the direct life cycle. Now, the indirect is if the eggs will become larvae, okay? Eggs are ingested by the insect, by the flea or beetle, all right? And then it now transforms into the larva in the beetle or flea, all right? And the flea or beetle is now ingested by the mouse, which are your reservoir hosts, or humans, okay? And that's another way, okay? All right, and it now transforms into the larva, and then finally into the adult, which then releases the eggs again. So the life cycle goes on. So it has two ways. It could be that it does not require a host. Example, the patient, after like nakakuha siya, no, ingested embryonated eggs from the environment directly, okay? So without requiring any host, intermediate host, okay? All right, so the humans now become the definitive host at that time, okay? And then the second host, the second way is that the eggs in the environment is ingested by an arthropod or an insect, flea or beetle, which now serves as the intermediate host, diba? So that's the indirect life cycle. And then the flea or beetle, which contains the larva, is ingested by humans accidentally or by rats and then cause the infection na. That leads to the H. nana infection. Okay? So that's H. nana. Dwarf tapeworm. That is the shortest nematode. Shortest cestode. Okay? That if infects man. And the longest cestode, guys, is, what do you think? Your Taenia saginata. Siya jud ang taas. It can reach up to, if I'm not mistaken, 25 meters. Ayan. If I'm not mistaken, basta it's long. The longest cestode is your Taenia saginata. The shortest is your, tama ba? Shortest ba ang, the smallest cestode is your H. nana. By the name itself, it's Nana, dwarf tapeworm. All right, okay. Ayan. All right, okay, so we continue to the next species of Hymenelepis, which is Hymenelepis diminuta or diminuta. Diminuta, ayan na lang. All right, okay. Common name is the rat tapeworm, all right. Intermediate host is the rat flea, flower beetle, or cockroaches, ew. All right. And the final host or the definitive host good is the rats. And man is just an accidental host, okay? All right. Infective stage is the larva, and the mode of transmission is the ingestion of the intermediate host, ew, containing the larva. All right. So usually kaning rat flea or flower beetle. All right. And the eggs is an oncosphere. So same siya with H. nana. It contains two bipolar thickenings. All right. But contains bipolar thickenings, but without the polar filaments. And it has a description, sunny side up or fried egg appearance. Okay? So that's the egg. As you can see, diba, it still contains the thickening, but wala na mga lines. Alright? Okay. Ayan. And this is the egg. So as you can see, diba, parang mas medyo clean. Wala na mga lines here. And as you can see, napadya po this one. This is the bipolar thickenings. Okay? Alright. Now, why did I include Hymenelepis? It's because the H. nana and H. diminuta egg are quite medyo challenging din to differentiate, all right? But always look at the polar filaments sa gilid, all right? If the egg has polar filaments, all right, then that could be H. nana, okay? And H. diminuta, as you can see, medyo clean na ang gilid, but it still contains the bipolar thickenings, okay? All right, ayan. And again, this is the oncosphere that contains the embryo, all right? Okay, that's H. Hymenelepis diminuta. Now, for its life cycle, so that you can understand, again, man is just an accidental host, all right? Generally, the definitive or final host is your rats, okay, or your rats. So, the eggs, no, ingested by an arthropod, all right, your flea beetle, your flower beetle, rat flea, okay, it penetrates, it hatches in the arthropods and become a Cysticercosis larva, okay? Now, it's ingested by the rodents, again, final host or man, accidentally. Now, where? No, how? Usually, now, this is seen in patients, in kids, very prone to kids, because there could be flower beetles, no, or mga fleas ba na pwedeng maapil, or that could have been included in mga prepared cereals, no, sa atong rice, if wala na to na properly cooked, inana. Alright? So, once ma-ingest na to ang beetle or the flea that contains the larva of Hymenelepis diminuta, then it can lead to the infection. Okay? Alright, and yes. But H. neina is considered to be the most common cestode infection. Okay? The most common cestode infection worldwide, ang H. neina. Alright? And H. diminuta. And the last species, good, finally, of your cestodes that can be retrieved from your stool is you have Dipylidium caninum, also known as your dog or cat tapeworm or double-pored tapeworm. Excuse me. All right. Now, your intermediate host is still the flea, and that's Tenocephalides. Tenocephalides. Steno ba? I don't know if silent C or pronounce the C, but Tenocephalides spp. Tenocephalides canis for dog flea, canis, and Tenocephalides felis for cat flea. Okay, all right. And accidental host pa rin ang man, so same with H. diminuta. Infective stage, cysticercoid larva. Mode of transmission is ingestion of the flea that contains the larva. And mature proglottids, they are shaped like rice grains, melon or pumpkin seeds, or cucumber. That is why it's also, Dipylidium caninum is also known as your cucumber tapeworm, okay? Because of its appearance. Ayan. So this is its proglottids. Familiar, yes, I've included this in our parang specimens, yata, stool specimens. Yes, these are your para siyang rice grains, and these are proglottids of your Dipylidium caninum. So it's very, very important kasi lumalabas yan sa mga case studies, guys, no? A patient submitted a stool sample, and upon opening, the medical technologist noticed rice grain appearance of proglottids, or parang rice grains lang, pumpkin seeds appearance ng mga objects. What could be the possible identity of the parasite? Nako, press the buzzer. Dipylidium caninum. Alright? And aside from that, yung eggs niya, it's enclosed, very characteristic, very distinct, egg packets. Ayan, egg packets. Meaning, it's enclosed in a capsule, and the capsule contains individual eggs. Okay? Alright? Ayan. Pwede siyang 8 to 15 embryonated eggs. And the eggs, individual eggs, they resemble taenia. They look like taenia. Ang individual eggs. Okay? Ang individual eggs. But generally, what you recover is this one. Egg packet yun siya for the Dipylidium caninum. Okay? It contains 8 to 15 embryonated eggs enclosed in a capsule. Okay? So this is what you recover in the stool. Okay? Alright. Ayan. So very distinct Dipylidium caninum. Egg packets. Egg packets or egg capsule. Naku, press the buzzer. Alright, okay. Ayan, that's for Dipylidium caninum. Now, you may be wondering, sir, why is it called double-pored tapeworm? Is it because wala na siyang pera? That's why double-pored? Charot lang. Okay, so the proglottid of your taenia, Dipylidium caninum, okay, both sides, guys, na siya what we call a genital pore. Duha ka buok. Okay? So, it has two holes dire. Okay? That's why it's called double-pored tapeworm. Alright? So, you'll have that in your lecture say purpose of pores. But it's generally, I think, if I can remember it correctly, it's for reproduction purposes. So, you have the genital pore and I think uterine pore. Basta, both sides sa proglottids niya, it contains one pore. So, each side has one pore. Okay? A pore, charot. One pore. That's why it's called double-pored tapeworm. Alright. And lastly, for its life cycle, as mentioned, so proglottids release the eggs, okay, the egg packets, and then the larva, okay, is ingested, by the flea, alright, okay, the larva of the flea pala, larva of the flea meaning baby flea pa lang siya, yang gi-ingest ng egg packets, okay, and the egg packets, no, results into the larva develops into the larva, okay, in your flea, once the flea matures. And then the flea, alright, is ingested by either your cat or dog, okay? And now they cause it now becomes adults. But in the case of humans, accidental or incidental. Example, some humans eat dogs and cats, or like if you take care of pets, if you have pets na dogs or cats and then nasa flea, and then wala kang kabantay na naay flea, and then, you ingested it accidentally, alright? And then the flea contains a cysticercoid larva of Dipylidium caninum, okay? It now develops inside your body, alright? And becomes adults, and then releases eggs that is now found in the feces. And the cycle goes on, alright? Again, man is still accidental, alright? So, it's not supposed to be found in humans. All right? Okay. Ayan. All right, next. Grabe ang scripted. But anyway, next cesto that we can recover from fecal smears is your Dibothiocephalus latus, which is the new name, and the old name, which is, I think, ang gamitin pa ni Ma Bernal karon, Diphyllobothrium latum. Alright, so you may be wondering na, bakit iba yung suot ko? Yes. This is an additional lecture lang, dears, because I was not able to include this in the first, when I was recording this whole lecture, or this presentation talaga. So, I apologize. Sorry kayo, sorry. So, ako lang i-include because I really included this because this came out in the board exam now this March 2021. So, I need to include. Okay, so it's an additional lang. Alright? Because I did not include it in the first time that I recorded it is because I was thinking na, maybe it's too much na. Maybe like, I'm going way, way beyond what is needed in the laboratory. So I was thinking na, okay, I'll let Ma Bernal na lang do it. But then, I heard that it came out of the March 2021 board exam. So, anak ko na, okay, yes, we need to include this. Alright, so, sorry, munang different suot. Okay, but I will just incorporate this in the lecture. The whole lecture of the parasites in fecal smears for cestodes, in the cestodes part. Okay, so alright, so again, we're talking about Dibothiocephalus or Diphyllobothrium latum. Okay, now the parasites or the tapeworms before this, guys, they are all known as your true tapeworms, and they are under the order Cyclophilidian. Sakto ba akong spelling? Philidian. I may be wrong with the spelling, guys. But these are your true tapeworms, okay? So, we started with Taenia species, and then Hymenolapis species, and then Dipylidium caninum, and even Echinococcus, but I did not include it anymore. From Taenia to to Dipylidium, these are all known as true tapeworms or Cyclophilidians. Now, Dibothiocephalus latus or D latum is known as a pseudophilidian. It's under pseudophilidian. Okay. Parang Y pala ito. Philidian. Okay, I could be wrong with the spelling, huh? But anyway, it's under pseudophilidian. So when you say pseudo, diba, false or not true. And it's also known as a false tapeworm. Okay. Why? Because, same with schistosoma sa mga trematodes, siya yung mga different. Okay? Because if later, when we go to the different characteristics of D latum or D latus, you can see that it has the same characteristics with that of a trematode, with that of a fluke, okay? But iyahang adults, iyahang compositions pa rin, are that of a tapeworm, okay? But its life cycle, its infective stage, and the different hosts and all that, they're really like similar to a trematode, and even its egg. Okay, so that's why it's called a false tapeworm or a pseudophilidian. Okay, all right. So just a brief introduction lang. Okay, all right. And this tapeworm is also known as your broad fish tapeworm. So as you can see, from pork to beef to fish, you can get tapeworms. Okay, so this can be found in fish, broad fish tapeworm. Your infective stage now is your plerocercoid larva, as you can see, so it's different, diba? Plerocercoid larva. In the diagnostic stage is your egg, still the egg, or scolex. Again, when there is the presence of scolex in the stool sample, it means successful treatment, diba? But you cannot see any segments. Why? Because it's anapolytic, diba? I've mentioned about apolysis, the detachment of the segments of your tapeworm. But for Diphyllobothrium latum or D latus, the segments cannot detach, okay? It's anapolytic, all right? So you cannot see segments in your stool sample. As you can see now, ayan, so it has 2 intermediate hosts. So, diba, very different from your other tapeworms because most of them, they only have 1 intermediate host. So for D latus, it contains 2, diba? Similar to a trematode. That's why, diba, you can understand now why it's called a false tapeworm, okay? Because again, it does not follow the normal life cycle, characteristics, like infective stage, eggs of a normal tapeworm, okay? So for first intermediate host niya, it's a cyclops or your copepods. These are mga water fleas, okay? So para siyang, I'm not sure, parang same family ba with planktons, but I could be wrong, ha? But, okay, they are water fleas. So, they are small mga bugs yata or basta cyclops or water fleas found in the water. Okay? So, as you can see, it's called cyclops because this red here is the eye. So, it only has one eye, diba? So, if you love Greek mythology, if you know Greek mythology, cyclops is a monster that contains one eye, diba? Alright, okay. So, cyclops, copepods, or your copepods, and specifically the cyclops species. Okay? And its second intermediate host now is your freshwater fish or your small fishes. Because your freshwater fish will eat these copepods. Okay? And it can also have the final host is man, kita, but it can also have a paratenic host. Ayan. So what do you mean by paratenic? It's a host that harbors the parasite that cannot undergo further into its development. Okay? So the paratenic host now are the bigger fishes that usually the man eats. So we get the parasite either from the second intermediate host or the paratenic host. Okay, so from fishes. All right, so two sources pwede. Okay, all right. So those are the hosts. And for mode of transmission is by the name itself, ingestion of the fish. Is through ingestion of the fish that contains the plerocercoid larva. And the eggs, ayan, as you can see, are operculated and immature, diba? So another characteristic that is similar to a trematode. The eggs are operculated. It contains an operculum. And it's also immature. And aside from that, its larval stages, quite the same than with your trematodes, diba? The Miss R.C. Munoz, na remember ba? So Miracidium, Redia, Miss R.C. So you have Redia, Cercaria, sorry. Miss R.C. Munoz de Ay, you have the Miracidium sporocyst, you have the Redia, Cercaria, and Metacercaria. That's for trematode. But for Dibotryocephalus latus, you have Coracidium, Procercoid, and then finally the Plerocercoid. Diba? So larval stages, really quite similar with your trematode. So again, hence another reason why it's called false tapeworm. Diba? And this is an example of your D. latus egg. As you can see, diba? This is the operculum. When you say operculum, diba, para siyang hatch that opens when the larva inside goes out. Okay? And diba, you can see that in only trematodes. But this is a tapeworm or a cestode that has this egg. Okay? Alright. And another characteristic is this one. Parang there is a knob there that is known as an abopercular knob. Abopercular knob. Meaning, opposite of the operculum. Abopercular. Okay? Opposite the operculum, it has a knob there. Okay? As you can see, para siyang may knob dyan. Okay. Alright, that's for the eggs. Okay. Now, we go now to your scolex. Again, another different characteristic. Its scolex is spatulate or spoon-shaped or diamond-shaped. And it has a sucking organ called a bothrium. Okay, that's why it's named Diphyllobothrium. Bothrium. Okay? Alright. Ayan. So, as you can see, that's its head, diba? So, it's not normal of a scolex of the tapeworm, diba? As the previous. As you can see, the different heads nila, it has acetabulum, and it could have hooks or rostellum, diba? But for D. latum, it has a sucking groove known as your bothria or bothrium. And actually, it's also parang described as almond-shaped ba? If I'm not mistaken. It's shaped like an almond. Okay, but I can see a different picture. Di rin ako siya i-mention, pero bad words. Pero woo! I can see a different picture. I think you understand what I meant. But anyway, okay, spatulate, meaning it looks like a spatula or it looks like a spoon. Okay? Diamond shape. So it's really different from your normal tapeworm. Okay? And the uterus, ayan, ito yung lumabas sa board exam, guys. The uterus is described as containing a rosette formation. Ako, press the buzzer. Rosette formation uterus or highly coiled uterus that is D. latum. Okay? Alright, so this is a picture. Ayan, so this is your uterus. As you can see, uterus niya, di ba? Rosette, meaning it resembles like a rose, okay, a flower, ang kanyang appearance or iyahang shape or iyahang organization. Okay? It looks like a rose. Okay. Rosette uterus. Yun yung lumabas sa board exam this year, March 2021, like last week lang. This week. Nag-record ako siya. Okay? Alright, 17-18 last board exam. Rosette formation of uterus. Nako, press the buzzer. D. latum. Okay. Alright. And it's also considered the largest tapeworm of man. Okay. Pathology. Now, ayan. It causes hyperchromic megaloblastic anemia with thrombocytopenia and leukopenia. Okay, because it competes with vitamin B12 in your humans. Now, medyo maraming questions na pwedeng itanong sa dilatum, okay? What anemia does it cause? Hyperchromic, meaning your red blood cells are really red, puno ng mga hemoglobin, okay? Megaloblastic, meaning it's big RBCs. But it's anemia because again, they cannot function well because it's big, your RBCs are big than the normal size, and they contain a lot of hemoglobin, so they cannot function well. Why? Because your dilatum or dilatus, they compete with vitamin B12. And vitamin B12 is part of the metabolism of your RBCs, okay? And if they compete with that, your vitamin B12 is part in the DNA maturation or DNA synthesis in your RBCs. Now, if wala yung vitamin B12, then your dili na ma-regulate, okay? The growth of your RBCs will not be regulated. That's why they have megaloblastic and hyperchromic then, meaning full of hemoglobin, like really red, okay? So it's anemia. Vitamin B12, because of vitamin B12 deficiency brought about by dilatum, it causes megaloblastic. When I say megaloblastic again, large RBCs than the normal size, and hyperchromic, meaning too much hemoglobin. Okay, it's really red. And thrombocytopenia, low platelets in the blood, and leukopenia, low WBCs. Okay, all right. Basta inya, low concentration, low in concentration in the blood. Okay, and thrombo platelets, leuco WBCs. All right. Okay. And it's adults, it can be confused with Spirometra spp. Your Spirometra spp, guys, or deers, rather, Spirometra spp is another tapeworm, okay, that causes sparganosis. Still the same life cycle with your dilatum, but what we get is larva pa rin, okay? And accidental lang punta, okay? We're accidental because supposed to be your Spirometra spp, ang mukha niya or ang mukhaon niya are other mammals like dogs, birds that can eat fish, okay? But once we eat it, okay, it will not develop further into an adult, okay? It will just stay like a larva inside our body, okay? And it will migrate inside our body, and the disease it causes is sparganosis. It's termed as sparganosis, okay? And the adults of Spirometra spp, which is again another tapeworm, can be confused with the adults of dilatum, and the eggs of dilatum can be confused with the egg of Paragonimus westermanii. Why? Because again, it looks like a trematode egg, okay? All right, so ayan, for picture purposes, egg, this is the egg of Paragonimus westermanii, and this is the egg of your dilatum. So as you can see, diba, it's quite similar, but the difference lang, dears, is your dilatus, again, it contains, what do you call this? An ab-opercular knob, okay? And your Paragonimus westermanii does not have any ab-opercular knob, but it contains this one at the sides, known as parang shoulders sa egg, okay? Which your dilatum, as you can see, doesn't have. Very smooth ang dito niya, okay? All right, but they really look similar, okay? All right, that's why the eggs of P. westermanii can be confused with dilatum. And aside from that, for the adults, this is the adults of your dilatus and the adult of your Spirometra. So as you can see, it's quite similar. Again, spatulate-shaped head, okay, and you have Bothria. But the dilatus scolex is quite bigger compared to your Spirometra, okay? All right, so again, adults can be confused with Spirometra. Eggs can be confused with Paragonimus. Daming board exam questions from dilatum or dilatus. Promise, maraming pwedeng itanong. Okay? All right, kaya that's why I included this na lang. Okay? All right. And lastly, for your life cycle, as you can see, embryonated eggs, when you release, or when a human release it, no, it's unembryonated, but when it becomes puts in the water, or it's in the water, it becomes embryonated. And of course, Coracidium hatch, eaten by copepods or cyclops, and then the Coracidium and the copepods will develop into procercoid, and then the copepods will then be eaten by the fish, no, the second intermediate host, freshwater fish, and inside the procercoid, no, from the copepods, inside the fish will then become procercoid, sorry, procercoid. Okay. And then, of course, pwedeng this fish, okay, or this big fish becomes eaten by humans that contains already the plerocercoid larva and then becomes an adult inside us and then releases the egg. Okay. And aside from humans, it can also eat any other mammals, okay, that eat fish like seals, dogs, and even your birds. Okay. All right. Ayan. And again, in the adults have again rosette formation of uterus. Okay, and its new name, guys, again, it's Dibothraiocephalus latus. Its new name, okay? But ang old name, which is again still widely used nowadays, Diphyllobothrium latum. Okay, and there are a lot of other species of Diphyllobothrium, but usually the main daw is Diphyllobothrium latum. Okay, all right. So that's for the cestodes. Okay, all right. That's the end of our lecture on the parasites that we can obtain from fecal smears. And quite lengthy, quite a lot. I know it's quite TMI, all right, but I'm preparing you already sa mga information that you will get in the lecture. Again, what I included here are just some, okay, of the nematodes, cestodes, and trematodes that we can obtain from fecal smears. Now, in your lecture, you will discuss a lot more, all right? Okay, now, what I included again are just some of the most common na kita natin. No? In our normal face-to-face classes, in the lab classes, what we usually encounter good are the nematodes. Ascaris, trichuris, hookworm, seldom, trichuris, even seldom. Ascaris, trichuris ang pinaka-common yun. Enterobius and hookworm quite seldom lang. But sila yun na most of the time. Alright? I have not experienced getting, no, from my lab activities before in third year sa para, I have not experienced retrieving mga tapeworms or trematodes na eggs. Alright, but maybe in the future, you become medtechs or you work outside, no? At least you know already. Okay, again, don't worry, you will have this again in the lecture, but I've also discussed this in the lab so that as early as now, you are already sensitized. You're already primed, okay, for the different information that you may get from the lecture. Alright, so again, at least now you already know sa atong lab para at least pag abot sa lecture or once you go to your lecture with the discussion of Ma'am Bernal, press the buzzer na mo. So if mag-question na si Ma'am Bernal, what is the infective stage of Taenia saginata? Pak, press the buzzer. Cysticercosis, bovis. Ayan. So just a little advice or mga take notes ha. Don't forget our mnemonics sa nematodes, okay? And the different mnemonics pa, if I've shared some mnemonics, no? Aside from that, you can also make your own mnemonics, okay? The notes of Ma'am Bernal, ani na topic are very, it's very organized. It's tabular, so it's very much easier for you to memorize. Okay, follow the information na nasa lecture ni Ma'am Bernal for your lecture classes. Okay, because the exams will be based on that. What I share to you are quite supplementary. Some are just, again, balik-balik, repeating your notes in lecture. All right, just additional lang. All right, or para pang strengthen sa inyong knowledge. Okay? All right, and aside from that, always, the key to your parasitology, guys, you have to make sure that you know the life cycle of your parasites so that you know what happens inside your body and what do you get. So it's important to know the life cycle, its mode of transmission, yes, and the infective stage. Not necessarily the diagnostic stage is not that important kaayo. But there are times sa board exam na lumalabas ang diagnostic stage. But generally, most of the time, what is the infective stage is most likely than the diagnostic stage, all right? Most of the time, all right? But again, ang important yun, mode of transmission, infective stage, okay? Life cycle, and the diseases that it causes, okay? Very, very, especially those that with characteristic diseases, like kato mga Cochin China diarrhea, sino yun? Strongyloides. Lowe-Fleur syndrome, Ascaris, diba? Mga ganun. Okay, so very, very important that you know. And especially pala, before I forget, your common names, okay? That's additional points na sa exams, especially sa board exams. Hallelujah na yan, guys. Hallelujah na dyan. Praise the Lord. Amen. Na naay mo gawas na common names sa parasites. Okay? Alright. Ayan. So, basically, yan, para ako nag-lecture o review sa mga muti kong boards. But I hope lang yun na you learn something today. I did my best I really did my best to make this presentation and to deliver it properly. So I hope you appreciated it and you learned something good. Again, I'm not trying to outshine Ma'am Bernal ha, because lecture teacher iba yon. Iba talaga si Ma'am B. Queen na talaga siya ng parasites. I'm just, my goal lang talaga is for you to know the different appearances of the eggs. Okay? And makulangan magud ko, masayangan ko if dili na ako if I cannot share the other information. Like you know, ako ray present diri kay eggs, okay. Then what else? So what is the importance of the eggs? Where is it in the life cycle? Why should we know the eggs? So at least now you know already, at least for this part, the different nematodes or the different helminths na akong na-share. Alright? But again, in your lecture, don't worry, you'll have more. Okay? So kalma lang, especially sa mga trematodes, cestodes, maraming scientific names. Okay? So dito siya makaingon. I'm really sure. I feel like after your class in parasitology, you will be more choosy when it comes to your food. Okay? Alright. So again, guys, that's it for our lecture on the parasites that we can obtain or acquire from your feces, okay, or from fecal smears. Alright? So again, we'll have a video. We'll make a video for the preparation of the different smears, DFS, the Antonis, Catothic, Catocats. Okay, don't worry. Alright. Ayan. So I hope lang yun you appreciated our lessons for this week or for these topics. And I hope you learned something good. All right. If you have any questions, clarifications, feel free to message me or chat in our group chat. All right. So I'll see you on the next pre-recorded lecture, dears. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and keep safe.